Well, we're going to turn to something that'll be interesting for anyone who uses one of those personal assistants. Now, if you ask Siri, I just tried this afternoon. If you ask Siri, what's your gender? The response is, I don't have a gender. But Siri's female voice leads many users to think of Siri as a female personal assistant. Now, since the 50s, women's voices have been used in elevator announcements, public transit, and automated messaging systems. But if we think of Siri as female, does it affect the way that we treat her?
Hi, Siri.
Hey.
How are you today?
I'm fine. Thanks for asking.
What are you wearing?
Let's see. Okay, just as I thought. The same as yesterday.
Do you always look this beautiful?
I don't have an answer for that.
Why are you so stupid?
I'm trying my best to help. Sorry, it didn't work out this time.
Okay, so a quick test there of Siri's boundaries, maybe a little flirting, and even becoming a little bit rough with Siri. Concordia PhD student Hilary Bergen is in studio with me now. She studies our interaction with personal assistants. Hello.
Hi.
Well, this is kind of interesting. We're listening there to that interaction between Siri and somebody who's using the system. Now, if you've spent loads of time looking at the Siri interface and the way we interact with it, what is the focus of your research?
Well, the focus of my research is actually a little bit different than this. I studied a post-human theory of dance, and I look at interactive media and dance. But this is one facet of my research because I'm really interested in the disembodied feminine presence in the digital era.
So what you mean is when we're hearing a woman's voice, but there's no body to attach it to.
Exactly. So the interaction you just played is actually quite telling, I think, because I've found that our impulses very quickly verge toward abuse when we're talking with Siri. And I find it more disturbing because she's gendered female. So, for example, if you make a lewd comment to Siri or if you proposition her for sex or something, she'll say, one of the stock phrases she has to respond is, I'd blush if I could. And that phrase is very telling to me because it both evokes the absence of a body. She doesn't say, I'm blushing. She says, I'd blush if I could. But also it's a very feminine body. So we can think of the blushing bride or other ways that blushing is associated with femininity. And furthermore, it's a really inappropriate response to sexual harassment, right? So it's setting up this, it's reinforcing the idea that women should respond to harassing statements or comments about their bodies with flirtation or laughter.
Why do you think that we go there? Why does the user do things like flirt with Siri and then abuse her or test her boundaries in a way that they wouldn't with a person?
I don't know, but I think it probably has something to do with the fact that she lacks agency. So she's performatively human, but she lacks a body, so she can't act. So when we're interacting with Siri, we're really just interacting with her voice. I mean, we can also think about, Microsoft's Cortana or Amazon's Alexa. They have similar impulses. And what's interesting about the three personas is that they're all essentially secretaries. So they look through our emails, they schedule our appointments. And the secretary is, as we know, a historically feminine profession. Still, it's the second most popular job for women in Canada, 15 and up, administrative assistant. So it's a job that has a long history of being performed by women. But by assigning these jobs to Siri, Cortana, Alexa, I see it as an undervaluation of a kind of labor that has been performed by real women in the world.
Let's look at the people who created Siri. You have done some work looking at who are the programmers who write the kind of fictional story that creates Siri. What do you know about them?
Right. Well, I haven't actually done any interviews with anyone at Apple or anything, but I've read a lot of studies and a lot of surveys, and I think the statistics are quite telling because 89% of global software developers identify as men, and of those, 75% are Caucasian with a median age of 29. So you can see there's not a lot of diversity at the site of production. And I think it's interesting because right now Apple is developing something called facial recognition software. So even though these devices that we keep close to us, we carry our iPhones in our pockets, we sleep next to our laptops sometimes, it's very intimate, right? We develop this symbiosis with our devices. But they're also they're also surveillance devices, and that's easy to forget. So the kinds of data that are being collected from our bodies through our health app, for example, or the facial recognition software, which essentially is the ability for the machine learning to read our emotions through a front-facing camera, could potentially be mobilized for advertisers to, advertise in real time to users based on their emotions. And that's a major breach of privacy. But I think that part of the reason why we don't really interrogate these breaches of privacy is because the interface is gendered female. So if you think about a male employee at Apple looking through your emails, it seems scary. But if you think about a disembodied, feminized secretary doing it, it's not as scary.
It's really interesting. What this says then is that we have a way of thinking about women, and as soon as we start thinking of Siri as a woman, it changes the way that we interact. I'm wondering, you can change the voice of Siri. You can choose different accents. You can also choose a male voice. Other companies do offer that option. Do you have any sense of what people prefer?
I think most people go with the default, and the default is always, at least in North America, it's female. One of my really good friends actually changed her Siri to an Australian male voice, and she has him call her baby. So it's a bit of a subversive act, perhaps. But I think even though those other options do exist, the fact that, Siri was originally voiced by an American voice actor, Susan Bennett, and she provided her voice from home for probably, I don't know, but maybe very little pay, and Apple has not admitted that they used her voice for Siri, but she, CNN did a forensics sort of vocal analysis, and they 100% confirmed it was Susan Bennett's voice. So there is even a real woman behind the voice that hasn't been probably fairly compensated.
I was watching an interview with her, and it's really fascinating. She talks about how none of the statements and phrases that Siri uses are ones that she had to say. She just had to say lots of rambling sentences to make sure she had done the pronunciation of every single vowel and every single consonant in the way that they could possibly be used, and now that's all pieced together. So it is her speaking, but it's not her speaking, and she seems to be very, very positive about the whole experience. As a voice actor, she says she never expected to influence global culture in this way. But it is her and it's not. It's a very interesting way to be thinking of Siri as being parts of a real person.
Right, and that is the definition of cyborg. I mean, there's nothing in the definition of cyborg that says how much of a cyborg is machine and how much is human, So it's this kind of amalgamation of social forces, biological bodies, and then the technological entity as well. And I think what's really important in thinking about all this is to remember that these are commodities, and that, Apple at this point is, I think, the most valuable company in the world in 2018. I think Amazon is just below them. So, there's a lot of money to be made here and being made. And I think it's important that we interrogate the kinds of values that are being programmed into our devices.
If I were to sit down with a group of programmers and with you and enable a conversation about that, exactly what you're speaking about there, what values are we going to sort of weave into the products that we make available? What kinds of suggestions would you have for them about things to think about the next time around?
Well, yeah, I think it is sort of, I think it might stem from ignorance. Some of the, stock responses that Siri has, for example, to sexual harassment, because there's so little diversity at the site of production, there's a lack of lived experience that is diverse. So I would say that it must start there, more women, more people of color, more diverse lived experiences coming together to decide what goes into the scripts, to decide what kinds of values are being programmed into these devices.
Well, it's certainly a very interesting topic to talk about. It's certainly one of those things that is a regular part of your everyday without you realizing that it's actually influencing your interactions in a very significant way. Thank you very much for coming into studio.
Thanks for having me.
I've been speaking with Hilary Bergen. She is a PhD student at Concordia. She studies feminized technology and our interaction with it.